All signs point to this, as new reports from multiple insiders have revealed that a major move is imminent for the New York Rangers, and we're going to break down what this move is and how it has major implications on the future of this team and Chris Drury's master plan heading into this offseason. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with your New York Rangers, with everything they're doing this offseason to rebuild the team heading into next year, it's free. Go down below, hit that subscribe button, and again, you get to stay up to date with everything going on with the New York Rangers. But let's waste no more time. Let's jump right into it. Mike Sullivan becoming the new coach of the New York Rangers looks very likely at this point. Covered in a video yesterday, covered it the last couple weeks even, but a new report from multiple insiders, and the first one we're going to start with is Frank Seravalli. A direct quote: "I think the Rangers will have their coach by the end of this week." And stay tuned, because we're going to break down, it's not just Mike Sullivan he's talking about. Things are about to get very interesting. Again, all signs are pointing to it being Mike Sullivan, but I think things can take a major turn halfway through this week, and I'll explain why in just a few minutes. But direct quote from Frank Seravalli: "I think the Rangers will have their coach by the end of the week." And a lot of other insiders are also sharing this sentiment at this time, that the Rangers will, complete their coaching search by the end of this week, or they want to get it done ASAP, is pretty much what everyone's hearing at this point. Like, they're going to waste no time. They're doing their due diligence, of course. They want to find the best coach available for the roster that they have, and somebody who's going to be able to work with Chris Drury. But there is a lot behind Mike Sullivan right now, and I think that there's, very good reason to believe that he will be hired as the head coach of the New York Rangers. And the reason for that is because a lot of people are speculating, because his son-in-law is Charlie McAvoy on the Boston Bruins, that he would want to go coach the Boston Bruins. Not the case, as was revealed yesterday from Molly Walker on Mike Sullivan. Word is that Sullivan isn't the biggest fan of ownership in Boston. The 57-year-old Sullivan is the easy choice, But does that automatically make him the right one? That is what Drury, will have to decide. And we'll get to that in a bit in terms of some other coaching options, because there's one that is going to blow your mind that is on the list right now, and actually maybe not an odds-on favorite, but he's pretty high on the list, and it's pretty shocking. But we'll get to that later. But is Mike Sullivan the right guy for the job? I believe he is. He's coached a lot of teams where they have a lot of older talent, which the Rangers have, and he knows how to work with younger talent. And I don't think he wanted to do that anymore in Pittsburgh. I think he wanted a new challenge. Everything that's come out from Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins makes me believe that Mike Sullivan did not want that challenge anymore. He wants to coach a team that's closer to contending, or at least rebuilding on the fly. And I don't think he believed that even though the Pittsburgh Penguins want to do that, I don't think he believed that they are actually doing that. So I feel like he wanted a different challenge. And is he the right guy for the job? I believe he is. I think this is the number one choice. If you're going to make a list, he's number one on the list. And I think a lot of other people are saying the same thing. And, this is from Wally Walker as well, that, he is the front runner at this time in terms of the head coaching position. And it's no longer a hypothetical or a what if, because they would have to, tamper and get him out of Pittsburgh or anything like that. He's been let go. He's been fired, whatever you want to call it. So, he's on the market right now. So Mike Sullivan is officially available at the same time as, obviously, the Rangers have a vacancy on the bench. But this goes back much further than people realize. That, I think Mike Sullivan has always been high on the list in terms of who the Rangers want to hire as a head coach, as long as Chris Drury has been the president and GM. So this is from Elliot Friedman on Mike Sullivan as well. And he went on to say that in 2021, all the way back 4 years ago, when Chris Drury was hired as the GM and president, he didn't hire Gallant until he knew that Sullivan was staying in Pittsburgh for sure, because of course in 2021 there was a whole debacle about that as well, and then the Penguins ultimately made the playoffs the next year, losing to your New York Rangers in the first round. But until someone beats the Rangers out for Sullivan's services, that's who I'm picking. He's their number one. That's from Elliot Friedman. Whenever Elliot Friedman talks or says something, where there is smoke, there is fire. He only ever says stuff like this when he is 100% certain. Of course, it could still not happen, but he's 100% certain that he is probably number one on the Rangers list. And again, this goes back to 2021 at this point, that the Rangers wanted to hire Mike Sullivan if he were to become available, and they ended up hiring Gallant, who I thought was a good choice at the time. And I still believe that. And I think that, a lot of why the Rangers haven't found success is because of the personnel on the ice and the mindset. But I still think that Gallant was a good choice at the time, but Mike Sullivan is that guy. I think he knows how to work with younger talent. I think he's worked with some, star players that are a little bit older in the league, of course, and he's won a Stanley Cup. So I think he has some good pedigree. And, of course, he's familiar with the organization as well, being a former assistant coach. So, again, until somebody else beats out the Rangers with a better offer, looks like he might be the number one. So I thought this was very interesting as well. People were throwing this around. I covered this in a video last week about John Tortorella coming into the organization, not as a head coach, not necessarily as an assistant coach, but as like an advisor to the head coach. So imagine now, and this is what Phil is saying, that the odds are actually very high on this. Mike Sullivan as the new head coach of the New York Rangers, and John Tortorella as either an assistant coach or an advisor to the head coach. I think that could get very interesting because I think Torts would be better not in a head coaching position. I think he would be better in maybe an advisor position, maybe a front office position, something where he can come in and, help to instill a culture. The Rangers need a culture. This is one thing that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks. The Rangers need a coach and other people in the organization that can instill a culture. You come in, we're here, we want to win, we want to reach our ultimate goal of a Stanley Cup. And this is the way we're going to get there. So a lot of teams that are really good, the Floridas of the world, the Tampa Bays, all these other teams, even Pittsburgh for a couple of years there, have this winning culture ingrained in that dressing room through the coach. It's from the top down, right? So I think the Rangers are trying to build something like that. So that could get very interesting. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Now, speaking of getting interesting and taking a major turn, things could take a major turn between now and the end of the week because the Tampa Bay Lightning are on the verge of being eliminated from the playoffs. And according to Hockey Insider, now keep in mind, this account gets things right sometimes. I get things right sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So take it with a grain of salt. But breaking news, according to a source close to the Tampa Bay Lightning management, John Cooper's job could be in jeopardy in case of a first-round exit by the Bolts. Now, this is very interesting because right now I think Mike Sullivan is number one on the list. And the reason for that is because Chris Drury has history with Mike Sullivan. They got to know each other, a couple years ago. They got to know each other again, obviously, and reconnect at the Four Nations face-off. I think he's the number one choice. But if John Cooper were to become available, John Cooper is a very good coach. And Mike Sullivan was the second longest tenured coach in the NHL. John Cooper is the first, the longest tenured, I should say, coach in the entire National Hockey League. So I think that could be a very interesting option as well. Again, I think that Chris Drury is probably more comfortable and familiar with Mike Sullivan. That's why I believe he'll still be the number one choice. And even if John Cooper becomes available, could still be the number one choice. But if John Cooper becomes available, I think things, settle down for a bit. I don't think they're too eager to hire Mike Sullivan just yet. I think they're probably going to do a little bit more of due diligence and see what else is out there. So things could get very interesting. And this is from Molly Walker as well. Just to back up that as well, if the New York Rangers president GM Chris Drury meant it when he said that, the wide open coaching search was happening at this point, there should be no such thing as a foregone conclusion. So a lot of people are saying it's Mike Sullivan. I think it's going to be Mike Sullivan, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. And like Frank Saravalli said, it's going to happen by the end of this week. It could, but I think that they are going to do their due diligence. And I think that if, John Cooper becomes available, I think there's other names being thrown out there too that, from Elliot Friedman, David Carl has withdrawn from consideration for the Chicago Blackhawks coaching job. So that just got even more interesting, right? He only has Philly and a couple other teams. It could end up being Tampa if John Cooper's fired as well. So things are going to get really crazy here in the next week as the first round wraps up because more coaches are going to get fired. So I think the Rangers have an idea of what they want to do, but things can change very quickly. So let me know in the comments who you would want as the head coach of the New York Rangers. Is it Mike Sullivan? Is it John Cooper? Is it somebody else off the board that we haven't even mentioned? Is it David Carl? That could be an interesting option as well, a younger coach. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.